days you can barely go on Twitter, watch a football match, or talk in the group chat without hearing something about FC Bayern's wonder kid, Alphonso Davies. But despite him being on the lips of Bundesliga fans for well over a year now, and MLS fans for much longer than that, his fantastic performance against Chelsea in the Champions League really made the international audience sit up and listen. But that great night at Stamford Bridge wasn't the result of an overnight success, but rather the culmination of many years of hard work and toil, done not only by Alphonso himself, but also his parents. Before he was even born, his parents Dabia and Victoria were working to provide for Alphonso and his siblings a better life. Alphonso was born in a refugee camp in Ghana after his mum and dad had fled their native Liberia to escape the civil war going on there. During this time living in the camp, Dabia and Victoria signed up to a campaign which allowed them to relocate to Canada, eventually setting up shop in Edmonton, Alberta. From here, Davies went on to grow up as a regular Canadian kid, playing for various teams in the region before being picked up by MLS club Vancouver Whitecaps. You could say he progressed quite quickly as he made his professional debut aged just 15, becoming the first millennial to play in Major League Soccer.
If you watch MLS at all, you're familiar with how he came on with Vancouver. Young kid, looked a little bit beyond his years in terms of his physical nature of his play, his technical ability, his IQ as a footballer. And he had that breakout year in 2018 where I think he had 8 goals and 11 assists in the year. And at that point in time, he was only 17 years old. So the potential was always there. And I don't think that anyone at the point in time would have called him a finished article, but certainly that his career was going to take off at some point. And then everyone was shocked when Bayern swooped in, and there were other hosts of bigger clubs that were in for him as well. It wasn't just Bayern, so the interest was certainly credible. You would see, for me, again, a player who, despite his age, could really hack it with those who were beyond him in their physical and his physical development and the intelligence levels of his careers, but he's still fit despite being such a young player. And I think that's kind of a key thing that you want to see from somebody who was at that age. I mean, we see it in Europe all the time where you have really bright young talents where they'll show you little spurts of what they can do, what they might become, but they might either lack the consistency or they might lack the self-confidence. They might lack the physical attributes that you want, for a player who might be relied upon heavily. But I think Davies was just a little bit different.
Despite the setbacks and barriers in his life, Davies' work ethic was there for all to see. But he wasn't just capable of putting in the miles, he was effective and efficient in his work, so it wasn't long before some of Europe's giants came calling.
So there's a lot of interest coming in, and the interesting thing about Davies is that he doesn't have a professional agent per se at this point. He's represented by a family friend back in Edmonton, this guy named Nick Hauser.
Okay.
And Hauser reaches out to a British agent because he knows all these teams, it seems like you're interested, so he's asking for some advice on how to deal with it. And the agent recommends reaching out to Bayern Munich, because Bayern Munich wasn't necessarily one of the teams that was super interested yet. But the agent was like, listen, Bayern has their stuff together. If you can get a hold of them, get a hold of them. And so around this time, in the July 7th game, Davies is playing the Chicago Fire in 2018. Who's in the Chicago Fire at this time? Schweinsteiger.
Yeah.
And he, kills the Fire. And so Schweinsteiger lets Bayern know, this guy is a real deal.
Oh, he talked to them?
Yeah, it's he's the real deal. And so a week later, I don't know if you remember this one, but Davies had that wonder goal against DC United.
Yeah.
Where he dribbles 4 people,
Yeah.
and the Whitecaps were losing 3-0. So it was
par for the course.
Yeah, he dribbles 4 people and he hits a rocket, and it's a wonder goal that I think a lot of people around the world saw, and so that really boosted his stock. So Bayern at this point is all in.
The road from MLS to the Big 5 leagues of Europe is one less travelled than most, but that doesn't mean that there haven't been examples in the past of what people expected to be the next big thing for North American soccer. Players like Tim Howard, Tyler Adams, Josie Altidore and Freddie Adu have all done it, but the latter two's reputation has given the area the tendency to be treated with trepidation. too many failures have generalised North America as an area to be avoided for recruitment, but Alphonso Davies' story so far is absolutely changing that. As much as Davies broke the transfer record for MLS, he wasn't brought to Bavaria to be a nailed-down starter from day dot, and who could blame him? He arrived as a winger with the likes of Gnabry, Coman, Coutinho and Muller all ahead of him, so it was always going to be tough for this Canadian kid to break into one of the best teams in the world.
And he finally got an opportunity with substitute appearance coming up for David Alaba, and he came on as a left back. And a lot of the thought already when Davies came in, despite the injuries that happened with Bayern's first team squad, was that he could be molded into a left back. You know, you're looking at when they bought him as a winger, he's taller for a winger. He's built more as someone who should be further back on the pitch. He has a ridiculous amount of pace. Everything about him sort of screamed maybe not the prototypical winger you would think about. And people like Hansi Flick and the coaching staff could see that about him. And so they tried him out left back and ended up taking hold. He took the fact that Bayern had a huge amount of injuries that they suffered earlier on in this campaign. David Alaba was shifted to left center back. Alphonso Davies was given his chance at left back, and he's really taken on to it. And for me, I think the story of, despite his ability, I don't think anyone expected him in this short amount of time frame to be contributing this much to a club who, they're a top 3-4 club on the planet and have a really large say in a lot of their great performances. I think it speaks to his work ethic and the kind of person he is as a player, and everyone at Bayern absolutely loves him. He just signed a massive extension to 2025, so he's there for another 5 years minimum. Bayern don't normally do that unless they're absolutely sure that they're going to make you an integral part of what they're doing moving forward.
Alphonso Davies is such an interesting player. From his fantastic form at Bayern to his refugee background, he's well on his way to becoming a footballing icon, something which really hasn't been achieved by a Canadian international in men's soccer. He shows great ability on the pitch, but off it, his confidence and eloquence seems to set him apart from the rest of this current crop of generational talent. Watch any of his post-match interviews or even the speech he made in front of thousands of people on behalf of the 2026 World Cup bid for North America, and you see someone so much more than just a football player. And yes, the conversation has been had regarding whether he is currently the best left back in the world, but not everyone sees it as such a simple question. Okay, Drew, to finish off, do you think he's the best left back in the world?
No. Why? I just don't think he's there yet. And again, if you think about comments made by Bayern coaching staff and players, they've all said he has all the tools to become the best left back in the world. But it doesn't mean he is yet. And it's such a small sample size to say that. It's like people saying that Erling Haaland is the best center forward in the world right now. Or if Robert Lewandowski picked up a serious injury and was out for the full year, if Joshua Zirkzee came into the team and scored 12 goals in 16 matches, would people then say he's the best center forward in the world too? No, they likely wouldn't. So I think he has the tools to become the best left back in the world. I think Bayern still have the best left back in the world. He's just playing at left center back right now. But I think he can hit that level. I just don't think he's there yet. I think you need, there's so much more that has to happen before you can say that. But I'm not discounting the fact that I don't think he'll get there one day. I think he has all the tools to do it, yeah.